Hi everyone. I had people ask how I was doing this crochet plaid that I like to call whip weaving that I came up with. So I'll do a little tutorial for you and show you the process, hopefully from beginning to end. So the first thing you have to do is make a striped double crochet blanket. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wrapping threads around columns of stitches. If you end up planning your own plaid out, what you want to be looking for is that you have a stripe that's a certain number of columns, that those are an even number of columns so that you don't, all of your tassels are uniform and all one color. And then you determine how tall your rows need to be in your blanket by how wide the number of columns you want to do is. So in this case, we'll be doing 4 columns of stitches on this, and that's about the same width as 3 rows of double crochet. But that's neither here nor there. That's things you can figure out as you kind of figure out how to do this. But here's how to do the technique itself. So you start with a double crochet striped blanket. Here's our tiny little blanket. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn it sideways so that all your stripes are going this way and your double crochet posts are now horizontal and not vertical. Then you are going to get your master string. So I already measured out this little string to use for figuring out the length of my whip weaving threads. And you take your master string and you use it, pretty simple, just like this, so that you can get uniform threads to weave with that are all the same size. And you guard that thread with your life. I recommend using a color that you're not using in your blanket at all so that you can recognize it really quickly. Once you have 2 threads, you're going to get your yarn needle and thread your yarn. Oops. I apologize. I'm not a pro, guys. I'm just crochet on my couch a lot. Seriously. I'm doing my best here. Okay, so now we've got our blanket, we've got our thread. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to start on the bottom and you're going to go through this hole and you're going to leave enough room on the tail here that you can tie that into your tassel. And now we're going to go down, below, and up in the next stitch. So here is our next crochet that's laying sideways. We're going up above that. And it just kind of wraps around there. And this part hangs out, and that's fine. And so we're going to go around the bottom and up into the side of that next horizontal crochet stitch. You want to pull this tension so it's not too tight. It's basically just wrapping comfortably around your stitches. So again, we're going around under our blanket, around and up to the next side of a stitch, around the outside and up, around the outside and up, and around the outside and up. Pull that through and leave it right there. So that is our first column all wrapped up. And it looks pretty good. So when you are doing this threading, again, you want to make sure that this isn't too loose, too tight. You don't want it warping or doing anything. It should just comfortably be wrapping around. So I already cut some more threads. Now we do the next row. pull that through there. So now we're going to start, we started in this hole here, so we're going to start in this hole here right above it. We're going to come up through there and leave enough that we can tie our little tassel. And now we're going to go down through the bottom of the same, here's our crochet laying horizontal. We're going to go underneath it, and we're going to come up at the top of the next one that's laying on its side, just like that. And try not to get tangled up. So we're going to go down under the bottom of the next one and come up at the top of the next stitch laying on its side. And you do that all the way across. Now, some warnings, things to look out for, especially when you get onto a part of your blanket where you're working the same color threads on the same color posts that you have made. It gets really confusing, and it's real easy to skip one and come up here. How you tell you've made it all the way across on the same row is that your yarn should come out on the next one up from here and not skip one. If you've skipped one, you know you've gone wonky on your column. It's best to catch that right away. I actually didn't catch one for a good third of the blanket. Thankfully, it was only a couple of stitches up, and all of my rows were off all the way to the end of the blanket, and I was so mad at myself. So it's as easy as that. And grab another set of threads and keep going. So it really is super easy. Obviously when you have really long threads, you kind of got to pull it through. You got to have this in your lap. But super simple technique. So we're coming in at the top of the next crochet and just letting the strings hang out on the outside there. Get them enough that they can make a little tassel. And then you go down below and then up through the next one. Now, another thing to be careful of, if you are doing this and you don't poke your needle cleanly through a hole here, and I like to wiggle it around, make sure I'm not caught on anything, and then come up here and wiggle it around, and I like to try and feel the needle, make sure there's nothing in here. Because if you decide to do this and you kind of accidentally go through yarn, first of all, when you pull it, it's gonna be really hard to pull, but on the back side, you're gonna get this instead of your nice neat line, and that's no good. We don't want that. So really make sure that you're going clean in the bottom of a stitch and clean out the top without getting caught on anything. I may have to pull this needle off to get it out of there. Okay. Once I do 2 more threads, I can show you how to do the tassels. And hopefully there we go. So did I actually pull that out? Okay. Sorry, I accidentally undid the whole thing. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to try and do this really quick. Out under the bottom of the post, up through the top, in on the bottom of our horizontal laying double crochet, up through the top of the next one, in through the bottom of our horizontal double crochet, up through the next one, in through the bottom of our double crochet, up through the next one. Now when you get into the same color on the same color, I told you that's like the trickiest one. Sometimes you're going to have to count how many stitches up you did, because it's gets really invisible. It's hard to tell where you are and what row you're on sometimes. I gave advice in my post not to try not to change yarn in the middle of a stripe, because where you weave in your ends makes it a little thicker, and then the stripes look a little funky there. So it's best to have all of your woven in ends from your stripe blanket be on the edges and not in the middle of your work. It also can make your columns go off center and then be difficult to see. All right, one more and then I'll show you how to tie off some tassels. And that's how you do it. I mean, it's pretty simple. All right, last one. I will whip it through here really quick whip stitching. And leave enough here that you can tie your tassel, and then in through the bottom, out through the top, 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 and in through the bottom. And out it goes. Okay, so now we have an orange stripe on our plaid, and if I continued this, I'd do green and then I'd do purple, but I want to show you how to do these tassels. So here we are on the front side. We have this beautiful twilling that's happening, but if you notice, all of your tails come out above this edge, and if you tied them on the knots here, you're going to have a ridge of stitches there. And maybe you like that, maybe that's how you want to do it, but I always liked it when the knots are fully on the bottom of the piece. So what I do is I come down here to the bottom stitch and I go through just like you would place a where you would normally crochet to go in to do a crochet, and I grab one thread from my pair and I pull it through that stitch. And on the next stitch, right here, I put my hook in where I'd normally would place a crochet stitch, grab one thread of the two there, and I pull it through. So now I should have 4 strands, 2 that are coming out of the front and 2 that are coming out of the back. And I take those and just tie them in a knot. Real simple knot. You can, sometimes I use my crochet hook because that helps. Come on, guys. I think I will use my crochet hook. All right. Get them in the circle. Pull them all through here. Like so. Tie your little knot, and now you have a tassel that's down below the work. So one more time, I can show you there. You find your bottom. You got your stitches where you normally do your crochet. You put your crochet hook in, grab one thread from the pair that's above that stitch. You go on the next one, grab one thread from the pair that's above that stitch. Doesn't really matter which one. Pull it through. And once you have 2 threads that are coming out the front and 2 that are coming out the back, you tie a little tassel and you're done. I do recommend waiting to the very end to tie all of your tassels, because sometimes you'll make a mistake like I did where you go off rows, or you'll see a snag somewhere, or one of your little ends is super short for some reason and you have to like redo the tension all the way through. a thread, or you've got to take one out because your cat decided to claw it and snagged it up real bad, or like something bad happened. But as long as your tassels aren't tied, then you can completely redo this row, or you can readjust, or you can, you know, kind of fudge it and make it work. But that's all there is to it. I do the same thing on the other side. It's going to be harder to see, but with these end ones are just going to tie to the next one over. They're going to be funky. They're going to come out of weird places, and that's fine. Just make sure one thread is coming out of one side and one's coming out the other, like that. And then the same here, that you go through the stitch here and grab one of those threads that's coming out the stitch above it, pull it through, and then you can tie this tassel on the bottom. So now we should have 4 threads. Did I pull that through right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Those are our 4. And these are our next 2, so I'd pull those through 1 strand each. And then you tie these ones, and you got a tassel on this side too. There you go. That is how you do whip weave plaid. Good luck, everybody. Have fun. It's a super fun project. It is beginner friendly. I hope this helps explain how to do the whip weaving a little clearer, especially how to do the tassels on the end and what to do on the outside. The same thing happens on this one. You're going to end up starting on the outside, going in here, and then just wrapping around that outside edge all the way up. And that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this clears some things up, and that you have fun making plaid things with crochet. Call it whip weaving. If I ever see anybody call this whip weaving in the future, I'll know it came from me and it'll make me happy. Otherwise, have fun, make beautiful projects, you know, come up with cool plaids. Feel free to, you know, create the patterns for cool plaids that you know how to do, or you've invented, or color patterns that you've found. I'm just spreading the love by this little trick that I figured out because I'm stubborn and I wanted a plaid blanket. Happy crocheting, everyone, and I will see you on Reddit. There you go.